on Friday's podcast, I was setting up microphones to track drums. Well, about an hour after I ended that live stream, drums were done, right? And last night I did a little bit of editing. Friday, before I picked my son up from school, I did a little bit of editing, but I'm still working on the drum editing. There's some little automation things that I do that I want to show you all. If there's anybody in the chat, leave me some mix notes. We'll try things out. I think that's a cool thing to do. You know, you can give me a sound that you hear in your head, or something that you've referenced, something that you know you like the sound of, that you think would work in this heavy type of song, and I'll try it, and we can see if it works or not. If it works, maybe we'll keep it. I'm pretty particular about my music. We're doing some like deep editing, because I really feel like some of these things that we do really make a difference, that are very like detail oriented work. Things that people just doing this as a hobby maybe wouldn't do. It's a hobby for me, but I also treat it very much like it's a professional thing for me. I take the mix very seriously. I don't want to put out anything that sounds any less than anything like that a big record label would put out. So I get into the detail work, and I'm gonna switch you over to the screen capture, and I'll put me down in the corner in a minute. But let's put the screen capture in there, and then I'll pull me down here so you can see like what I'm doing, as well as the screen. So the drums are all in red. They're the red tracks that you're going to see. And I've got the automation screen on in Ableton. So let me show you what that looks like when you're automating. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, I got flipped around. So let me see if I can fix that. Hold on. I don't know how that got flipped, but so let's see. Let me see here. I'm still flipped around. Let me see if I can. I don't even know how I did this. Let me see if I can flip it. Let's just take it, remove, and then I'll add it back. Okay, this is the one I wanted to remove, yes, and then we'll add that back. Okay, there we let's try that. So I'm back to regular side. I mean regular, not upside down. So let me try this again here. There we go. And then we'll do this. Alright, now you can see me and you can see the screen. So all these tracks right here, you can see down at the bottom red track is kick, above that is snare, above that is crotch mic, stereo rooms, hi-hat overhead, and ride overhead. So those are the drum tracks. And then we have two buses down here, the room bus and the drum bus. And I also have down here in the purple, this is parallel compression bus with like a DBX 160. And what I've been doing, and I want to walk you through this process, is I'm pitching down my drum fills. So what that does is it's kind of like the modern production thing. Like if you listen to an 808 sample, it pitches down. It's like a boom, and then it drops, right? It pitches down. And when it does this, it's kind of just an automatic thing built into the sample. But if you're playing real drums and not augmenting with samples, then if you want that same effect, which really adds a great low end to the sound, if you want that effect, then you need to pitch it down. And what I use to do that, Ableton has pitch shifting built into the program, you know, the DAW, but you can't automate it. So you have to use a external plugin. And what I use is the Waves Sound Shifter plugin. And if you look over here, you can see I've done the first two fills of the song. And I'm not doing it on the individual tracks. I'm doing it on the buses and on the parallel compression track. So on the room bus, the drum bus, and the DBX 160 parallel bus, all three of these tracks, you can see they have the same automations in them. And these are all the pitch cents. I'm going down 99 cents, which is almost a semitone, right? And I'm doing it like kind of gradual, and then it comes back up very quickly on the next hit, whether that's the end of the fill and it goes back into the kick drum or the snare, or if it's another hit, like if you're hitting like eighth notes on the toms, in between each eighth note it's pitching down and back up. So that's why on this fill you see it twice. It's a pitch down and another pitch down because it's eighth notes. 16th notes, it depends on how far apart they are, how quick the fill is. I might pitch down every one. I might just pitch down the last one. That's something you have to play by ear, use common sense. So I'm doing it on the rooms bus, on the drum bus, and on the parallel compression bus. And I'm leaving the plugin off. Another automation I've done for all three, you can see, is the device on automation. They all, if we'll just look at these first two, the room bus and the drum bus, and you can see that they turn on at the same time. The parallel bus is like that too. And they turn on right before the drum fill starts, and then they turn back off right after the drum fill. So let me take you to a section of the song where I want to do this. Let's see. I think it's right here. Let me put on my headphones because I'm mixing. I usually always, when I'm doing mixing, like to get a real mix, I'm doing it on my monitors because that's how I get the most, things translate to me. I can make sense of it that way through my monitors. I'm not as good mixing through headphones, but to do this detail work, these automations, it's fine to mix in headphones. I also always take the mixes out to the car, usually sometimes 20 times doing revisions, taking them out to the car. And I also check on earbuds with the cell phone because a lot of people listen that way. And usually when the car is right, everything else is right. And I can get the monitors very close. Sometimes I might have a little tweak left to do something I hear better in the car than I do on my monitors. And I do that. But I mix pretty quietly. I have 5-inch monitors in here that I use, and it's not a great big room, but they work well for this room. And let me mention, if you're new to the channel, hit the like button, subscribe. I'll do a lot of mixed videos like this. If you want me to, let me know. If you have any notes for me about things you'd like to hear me do in this mix, write them in the chat and I'll try them. You can help me mix, we'll try them, see if they work. If they do, cool. If they don't, cool, but let me take you to the section of the song that we're going to automate this fill. I'm going to do it one time for you. Maybe we'll do a couple of them so you can see how it works, but let's listen. There's a big tom fill in this and we're going to pitch it down. So right there, that's the fill that we're going to pitch down those. And a good way to get the fill right when you're like editing your drums, I like to air drum. And if things aren't hitting when I'm air drumming, like I did when I was actually playing the drums, I probably need to put an edit in there. So we're right here. Here's the fill. If we zoom in, you can see it. Let's listen so I can hear how it goes and we know which tom hits to pitch down. It sounded like it was a snare leading into the toms. It was all done on this kit right behind me. It's a Ludwig Super Classic kit. They sound great. Maple shells. So let's listen. Okay, so it's 3 and 4 on the 8th notes, right? So we've got a little bit of a snare, kind of a press roll going into it, just a little bit on a couple of hits. But let me get in here with this detail. Okay. So right here is where we're going to turn the plugin on. So I have this device on automation right here, and we're going to turn it on right there, and we're going to turn it off. So we're going to put a dot right there on all these, the parallel and the DBX track. The parallel and the buses, I mean. So there's that. So, and then we're going to cut it off right when the fill ends. On this one, it's a little bit early, but that's cool because even though we play to a click, usually the guitar tracks aren't perfect with the click either. That's rock and roll, baby, So we're going to turn this plug-in on all 3 of these tracks, the rooms, the drum bus, and the parallel compression track, all right here. They're all going to come on at the same time and do the same automation at the same time. So all 3 of these curves are going to look identical like they did before when I was showing you the ones I did last night. So here's the fill, and let's switch over to pitch sense. I'll show you what this plugin looks like too. It's not much, it's just a little plug-in that pops up in the corner. Let me pull one up for you. We'll do the one down here on the DBX. So this is the plugin. My computer with the streaming might be a little slow loading them, but so you can see here it's got semitones, sense, unison, source, that's your 440 for, standard tuning, I guess, destination 440. All I really use on this, I keep the mode in transient, and for drum fills, I don't pitch down the semitones. I don't mess with that at all. I leave this on unison. I just pitch the cents, and I usually go 99 cents, like gradually. If it's 8th notes, I'll go right to the end. I'll show you. So the first one, you can see it here, is I'm going to start right here, and then there's another 8th note right about here. So we're going to put a dot right there. We don't want it coming in too early. We'll put it right about there. I'm just going off the kick drum. We can roll up and probably see it better off the snare. Yeah. So right there, we've got 2 automations. This is the broom bus I'm doing first, and I'm just going to take these pitch cents and I'm going to make another dot, pull it down like this. If I want it a little more dramatic of a pitch shift, I'll do it maybe about like this, so it's a little quicker on the pitch down. and I'm going to do the same thing on the drum bus. What doing this on all three of the tracks does is it makes it more dramatic. If you were just doing it on the drum bus, then I have the rooms with reverb on too. I've got a stereo pair of room mics up in the corner. They're small diaphragm condensers that I use to capture my rooms. Usually I pull them in a little bit. And if we were just doing it on the drum bus, we wouldn't hear the automation on those rooms. And let's actually pull this one over. So we want them all exactly lined up. You wouldn't hear it nearly as dramatically if you only did it on one of the buses, which sometimes maybe that's what you want. But I want this pitch down to be pretty heavy. You know, I want to be able to hear it in the mix. So let's get all these lined up. Actually, that one's a little off, but we're not going to mess with it because it's close enough. So we're going to pull that down. Now all three of these. I'll solo up this track so you can hear what it does too. And we're going to pull that down like that. So that's the first note of the fill. So let's listen. So it's dum, 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 3 and 4. The main one I want to hit is this 4 because it goes the longest. So we've got another one we're going to put here, cut it off here. Same thing on all three tracks. And we're just going to pull it down again. Do it the same way, all the way till the end of the fill, till the next note comes in, right? There, right here. This one's a little quicker, so we want it to be on the same line. Yep. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I like to have them all the same. That way they're all doing the same thing. When, you know, it's more, they're all in unison pitching down. So it looks like I have maybe a kick drum after the last tom hits it. Okay, yeah. So we'll do this one and we'll kind of pull it a little bit longer. Actually, I did not mean to do that. We got to put a dot here so we don't interrupt anything after that. And we're going to pull it down all the way and leave it there because I believe that's a kick drum hit. And we'll just leave it pitched down because that kick drum hit will sound cool pitched down as well. People like Eric Valentine, I think he actually uses like a kick drum room mic. And he does a delay thing where he pitches it down on every kick drum hit to get almost like that 808 thing, but on his real kick drum track. And he does it with delay. He does it a little bit different, but it's a very similar thing. He's pitching down every kick drum hit and, you know, does it in the fills as well, I believe. So it's a thing a lot of people do if they're doing real drums. It kind of gives you that modern production feel. So let me solo up these three tracks and let you hear what it sounds like in solo. We'll do a little bit of pre-roll and start it back here. This is just the drums. So yeah, you can definitely hear that boom as when the tom hits come in. And when it's in the mix, it really sounds cool. You know, sometimes it can be a little hard to hear when you're first doing it, but I promise you, as you listen to the song more, it becomes more apparent, and it really is a thing. It does a thing. It adds low end. It's just a cool feel that it adds. Like those big, like 80s cannon shot toms, they had this kind of thing on them as well. I don't know how people like Mutt Lange did this, but it definitely sounds like they're doing that either with samples or something to get that same kind of thing. Let's listen to it in the mix real quick. I'm just gonna do one or two of these like this. I'm going through and I'm doing the whole song, but for the live stream, you know, that would get pretty boring pretty quick if I just did this the whole time. We'll talk about some other drum editing and mixing things as well. great. If you can remember what it sounded like before I did the automation, it didn't have that power. It something about that sustain. You don't want it right on the transient, but just after, when the snare or when the toms are still ringing, that pitch down. It's a lot of detail work, and it's really kind of tedious work, but I promise you it makes a difference. And once you've done it and heard it in your songs before, it's like you don't want to not have it, because it makes a huge difference. You never know who's listening. People appreciate this kind of shit when you're mixing. If you've got any mix notes for me, I see a couple people have been checking out the stream. Leave me some mix notes. Say hi. I'll try anything you want me to try in this mix. We can always do a save as and take it back out later. Or if it works, maybe you've got a cool idea that I want to keep in the song, put it in the chat. Also, hit subscribe, hit that like button. I make music here. I play real instruments. I play drums. I play guitars. I play bass. I have analog synthesizers in the studio. All that's on here. I've got a really cool synth track. Maybe we'll listen to that in this. It's it's kind of a pad underneath, but it's very cool. It's got certain places where it pokes its head out. Synths really work good on heavier sounding rock shit. Any kind of music. Synths are great. Putting a pad in there or having it as your lead instrument. Keys by far isn't my first instrument, but I'm good enough on keyboards to make shit sound cool, so I put it in there. And you don't have to do a lot. Roots, fifths, fourths, playing a little melody line over something really adds a lot in the mix. So let's see, there was another place that I wanted to do this pitch down just so you can hear it again. You can see, if you're just doing it on the buses, if you have tom mics up, maybe you want to do it on the tom mics. I don't have tom mics. I find that when I had tom mics up, I was bringing up the level on my room mics more than the tom mics for the fills. I just like the sound of the room mics on toms. It works really well for this room. This room isn't drywall. These walls are actually wood paneling, and it sounds great with real drums live. I have hardwood floors in here, and it just resonates in a way that works. It sounds really great having wood drums like wood rooms for some reason. Wood likes wood musically. So let's listen to this other section before. It's got the drop tune guitars, and it sounds cool as hell. And it's got a big drum fill, I think, in it as well. It's this section. It actually repeats parts from the section before, but there's a guitar missing. I'll let you hear it. Here we go. Let's go up to the drums. That's where we have the other filled up. And that's going to be one that we can make more substantial in that pitch down, because it's just like, it's not a 16th note fill or an 8th note fill. It's just one big tom hit. So we can really get the most out of this effect this way. Let me find exactly where it is. Hold on. I think it's right here. So yeah, it's on the 3 on this fill, or really my where I'm playing. I'm a little off the grid. I'm a lot off the grid actually. It sounds like it should be the 3, but this section I was playing faster than the click track. I put it in there. I go by ear. I usually play with the click track, but I go by ear on my edits and my especially drum editing, because there's this thing. Whenever I edit drums, I'm doing it a different way now. I've started making a 2-bus master, like stemming out the 2-bus, right? For all the guitars, everything but the drums. So usually I'm doing guitars, bass, some percussion, and synths before I track the drums. And then the drums are also before vocals. So I take a 2-bus print of all the instruments except the drums, and I put it on another template with just the drum tracks that I'm going to be playing in. So I have a 2-track master that I'm playing drums to, and I do that because even when I turn off all my plugins, there's something that happens and I get latency when I'm tracking drums. I don't know if it's because I have more mics going or because this computer is sometimes hooked up to the internet and things mess with the CPU, like something turns on in the computer for something else, maybe an external app or something, and my drum tracks always have to be edited. And it's funny because I know I'm playing in time, because after I do all the editing and go back to my video that I've took of me playing the drums, because I always take video because I make a music video for each song, right? Whenever I go back and do the drum edits and I get it like I want it, and then I put that up next to me actually playing the drums, it lines up perfectly. I don't have to do any edits in the video. So I know I've played in time and the way I want things, but I have to edit them to get the audio to line up with the video and just get the audio to be right with the music. So something's happening. Even though I'm doing this in a way where I'm just recording the drum tracks, I'm going off a 2-bus master on all the other instruments, and I have no plugins on when I'm recording drums. I'm not even monitoring, not even doing direct monitoring. I'm just taking off one headphone and listening to that. So there's nothing that should be using CPU and giving me latency in my tracks, but my drums are always a little bit ahead and I have to edit. So there's something going on the computer where I'm getting some CPU like spikes that are messing with my drums. If anybody knows what that might be, let me know, because I would love to be able to just play the drums in and not have to edit. And people tell me when they're not running any plugins and they're direct monitoring or not monitoring at all, they don't have to edit, but I have to edit. I don't know if they're bullshitting me or if it's just something that I have running in the background that's causing CPU spikes and making me have latency. If you know, leave it in the chat for me, because I would love to troubleshoot that. So here's this fill. Let's do this process one more time. Right there. So it is, yeah, it's about on the 3. I'm a little early, I think. I think it's this. Yeah, right there. Let me listen to it again. So yeah. So it's going to be this note right here. And what we're going to do again is do all the automation, device on automation for all 3 of these tracks first. We're going to cut the plugin on right before that note of the fill. You can do it right before the full length of the fill happens, but I like to do it just where I need it. So let me make sure. If I look at the snare track, that'd probably be the easiest way. So I know that's the 4. Okay. Should be right. Okay. So we're gonna cut the plug-in on. So it goes to cha-cha. There's an and for the tom is just right here. What should be the 3 seems like the 3. It's about it's about an 8th note early, but that's where it should be with the music. So we're gonna turn on the plug-in right about here on all 3 of these tracks, and then shut it off before the 4 of the snare. So it's a little bit of tedious work, you know what I'm saying? But it makes all the difference to me. When now that I know how to do this, and I've been doing it on the last few songs, if I don't do it, I feel like I haven't given my music 110%, you know. And if you're not gonna do that, why do it at all? Is my belief. So, you know, this part, you get eager to get when you got a new project and it sounds killer, you can kind of get eager to get it out there sometimes. But don't get in a rush, man. You know, do the work. Get get the shit like you want it, so you don't have to go back and make any changes. Because once you've got it up for streaming, the last thing you want to do is change something that's already out. You know, um, and I take this shit really seriously. You know, you never know who's listening. You never know, like, when a client like wants you to do these processes on their music. You never know who it may be, and to me, it's just the pursuit of, you know, integrity in your art, because AI's doing all the shit, you know, that we don't care about. It's doing all the, you know, bubblegum pop stuff, and other people are doing that. I'm doing music that I really care about, that means something to me, so I'm going to put the work in, and if there's a process I know, I'm going to share it with you. I'm doing these live streams now. I might as well turn on the camera. You know, maybe this is something that somebody didn't know about, but they always thought, man, that's a cool sound on such and such song, and it's this process, or one of the other processes I do. You know, I've got analog gear down here. I'm running, all this is through analog gear that you're hearing in the stream. Good quality gear. But most people now are working with plugins. Plugins is 90% of it. I hybrid mix. I go back out through Abbey Road Chandler preamps on my mix, because it adds really dynamics. You know, things can sound really you know, kind of one level when you're going through like SSL bus compressor, and then you got limiting at the end. And I found that just going through transformers and mic preamps really brings back some of those dynamics. It gives you some space that you didn't hear before. There's something about it, man. It's real. You know, people kind of think you can do everything with plugins, but analog gear does give you something. You know, it gives you something that you don't get any other way. And out of all my music, all but one song, I liked the hybrid mix better. And it's not a lot of hybrid mixing. I've got a compressor down here that I use, but that's for tracking, an 1176. And then I've got a couple great preamps, and on the actual 2-bus, all I'm doing is going back out to these Chandler TG2 a pair of mic preamps. So we've got the device automation on. Now let's pitch it down for that part. And so go here. I have to cut off my AC to get, so this condenser mic doesn't pick it up, and it can get hot in here sometimes, so getting a little hot now. This light is bright, and you know, it's a good key light, but it's definitely bright. So we want to see exactly where the snare comes back. So right there, I'm going to do it on this first, so I can copy it to all the other tracks, basically. Right there. Okay. We want it coming back before. Alright. So we're going to pitch down a little bit quicker, or we're going to give it some, you know, range. Let the transient have some space before it starts pitching down. So there's that one. Now we're going to do the room bus right here. Same way. And I'm going to pull this down, and that's the same. And then down here on the parallel compression bus 2, and you can see that plugin just popped up in the corner. That's all it is, just that waves. All it does is pitch shift. It doesn't really do anything else, and it's great. But you can do a lot of things with it. You can pitch down your whole mix, or pitch down your guitars, or you can do a lot with it. The main thing I've been using it for is this. so far. I just got this plug in a few songs back, and I like it. For this, I haven't tried a lot of stuff. I pitch down other ways. I have a Bigsby pedal, like these pitch down guitar parts, these baritone parts. They're in B, the really kind of chugging guitar parts. They're played through a dual rectifier trim overb with the Bigsby pedal pitched down to B. So it's this Les Paul, a standard tune guitar, but I'm playing it as a baritone with the Bigsby pedal. That's also got a great like micro pitch shifter in it too, kind of a chorus thing, but really it's pitch shifting, like micro pitch shifting, kind of like a harmonizer or something. And it sounds great with just a little bit of that mixed in. It's got a blend knob on it too. It's great. So here's this fill. We've got that drawn in. Let me make sure I turn this device automation. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So let's listen to it now. Let's solo it up so you can hear the pitch down. Just on these 3 tracks, we'll solo. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of pre-roll. So the way that fill hits when it's in solo, you don't notice it that much. It's like a little whoop, like almost like gives you some more air off the drumstick, but it's doing the thing and it's right where I want it. So let's listen to it in the mix just a little bit early, like I played you before, with it in solo. I like it. It's gonna work great. I've got a little bit of reverb on those room mics. That pitch down is cool. The way it's hitting anyway. In general, you're getting a lot of space off the reverb. So the reverb kind of is just kind of enhanced, I feel like, with this pitch down effect. Like I said, if you're using samples either for sample augmentation of real drums, or you're just playing, using samples, say you're a guitar player and you're building backing tracks with samples, you probably don't have to worry about this because it's built into most samples now, because it's very very pleasing sound. It's got a weight and a hugeness to it when you pitch down low end drum fills, toms, even kick drums. Like I said, there's a lot of producers and mix engineers that pitch down every kick drum hit in one way or another. You can do it by delaying things, like duplicating tracks, right? And having the high end of your kick drum, maybe you're boosting some 7K or some 5K to get that top end of the kick drum, that clickiness. And then with the low end of the kick drum, you delay that a little bit, like from 100 hertz down, 50 hertz down. Delay that a little bit, so you're getting the top end first and then the low end, and then a lot of times adding a pitch down to that as well. But just delaying the low end in itself, say 3 milliseconds, or whatever it might need for the song, having that low end come in later than the boost you did at 7K, having that come in, it's an automatic kind of pitch down thing, because you're hearing the top end EQ before you're hearing the low end EQ. So it gives you that kind of thing naturally as well if you duplicate the track or use 2 mics and do it that way with the kick drum. There's a lot of things you can do. You can see, I'll show you just some of my edits. Like I said, I'll go through, and let's turn off this automation. And I'm going to save the track too, because I like those pitch downs I did. If you have any mix notes for me, leave them in the chat and I'll try them out right now. We'll try them out. I like to keep these live streams at an hour. So far that's been the running time. I had one that was a little bit short because I hit a hotkey on the thing, and luckily I was recording it as well, so I had a backup so you can catch the second part of that live stream too. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. We're rocking and rolling. We're always doing this damn thing, man. I'm in here every night making music. It's what I do. When I was a kid, this wasn't an option. You could write songs, maybe record them on a little something like handheld tape recorder or even a Tascam. I didn't do that. I wish I would have been doing it back then. But there wasn't really the opportunity to make professional sounding music yourself till more recently. And now you can get it out in the world. Streaming services like Spotify kind of fucking suck because they don't pay, but you can get your music out there. That's all I can ask for, really. So I'm happy just doing my thing, being able to make music, share it to the limited viewers I have. We're trying to build something here, a community. People that dig the music are always welcome to hang out. It's what I do, and then I got to the point where I'm like, shit, I like the way the things are sounding. I know what I'm doing with the video editing now because I've been doing YouTube for a while. Learn how to edit the videos. Streaming was something I didn't really think I had the capability to do with my gear, and then I figured it out. And so now it's like I need to put a new YouTube video out because I've been kind of slacking on that because I like doing the streaming so much. I'm working out the kinks, now when the views are low is the time to work out the kinks for me and get things right. I've tried going through real amps. I've tried going through digital. I play guitar on these sometimes. I play music. A lot of times we'll finish up with me playing a song that I have out. And there's a music video tied to every song, just a tracking video here in the studio. I'll usually play that video for one of the songs as we sign off at the end of the live streams, just so you can hear that I do this shit. I'm serious about it. I can get some pretty good sounds. I feel like with the way digital is now, and especially if you have some analog gear to add to that, and you just put in the work and are willing to take the time to do this little tedious things like these pitch downs on the tom fills and things like this, that we can make music that sounds as good as anybody else, as people that do it for a living, make big budget records, if that even is such a thing anymore. It is for Taylor Swift, I guess. But we've got the tools at our disposal. It's learning how to use them, right? YouTube's a great resource for that. But you can't trust everybody on YouTube, It's not even that they're lying to you. It's that what people do for their mix might not work for yours. You have to dig in and figure out what works for your music and your song specifically. And if it works, use that. And what kind of sounds you want. If you want the drums, if you want room sounds, or if you want everything close mic. The more I dig into room sounds, like real room sounds, I have a Lexicon 224 on these room mics in the DAW, that room bus that I'm pitching down. It's got a Lexicon on it, but I prefer to just have the real reverb of the room when I can. If I had a huge room, I'm going to start putting some mics out like in the hallway or in the kitchen or in the sunroom out there to get the more dispersed, bigger, reverb, coming, like I always think of like when the levee breaks and that stairwell and that reverb they got, these room mics in here that are 5 feet away or 10 feet away, they're not going to get that because there's just not the space. They do get a good sound of this space though, because the echo off these wood panel walls is really really pleasing, and it's got a great, it's not harsh, like the cymbals aren't overpowering and trashy in your ears when you listen back from this room. So that's been easy for me to get a good drum sound in this room. It took a little bit of work, but as long as you're not compressing the shit out of the cymbals and beating the shit out of the cymbals, you're good, because I put the room mics back as far as I can, and still get a good sound, and it just works like that. So let's listen to some more of this. I'll show you some of these drum edits, right? And I'll show you what plugins I'm using. On the kick, I really like, well, I didn't use it on this one. I'm using an SSL. But I really like the API EQ for kick drum a lot of times. On this kick drum, I use the SSL. I think you can see I kind of went back and forth, and I ended up on the SSL. I did a little bit of high passing. There's a 5K bump, a little bit of high end, you know, and then we've got nothing there, and then at 250 hertz, I'm cutting like 12 dB, cutting that on a narrow Q, and then 50 hertz, I'm boosting about 6 dB, and I've got some compression. Thresholds at negative 2.7. Ratio is 2.5, and fast release. And that's what we're doing on the kick. That's pretty much it. Sometimes I use this subharmonic synthesizer. It's a cool thing sometimes, depending on the track. I'm not using it on this because it's rock and roll, baby. The snare drum, all I'm using is a Neve. Let's see what we got. High passing at 70, boosting some 220, boosting some 4.8, boosting some 10K. That's all for the snare, no compression. I did compress the snare with the 1176 going in. I have a Audioscape 76D, that's their blackface 1176 in the rack, and that's what I used on that. The crotch mic is an Audix i5, which is basically like a 57. I've got some decapitator to trash it out a little bit, and I've got a Neve on here too, high passed at 45. 220 boost, nothing in the mids, and some 10K on that too. And then on the rooms, I think I'm using, it took me a while. I've always wanted to get a great sound with the Devil Lock, like that, you know, raunchy room sound with the Devil Lock, and it seems like no matter how low I went on the blend knob with the Devil Lock, I could never get it to work. I finally got a sound I like with the Devil Lock on this one. Got some crunch, got some crush. This is the Devil Lock, the deluxe one, I think. Nothing on the darkness, and I'm mixed in at about 2 on the mix knob. And then that stereo room mic is going to the room bus that you saw us editing a minute ago. On the bus, let's see, I've got a Pultec and a Neve. Not doing much. Really, there's no EQ on it. So it's just going through the Neve, right? Just to get whatever plug-in, you know, transformer emulation thing they have going on that Neve. That's the Lindell 80 series from Plug-in Alliance. The hi-hat is that the Royer R10. That's the hi-hat, not the hi-hat mic, but the hi-hat overhead. And we just got a Neve on there, same plug-in. Not doing nothing on the EQ, just going through it. And these are all tracked through, if they're not tracked through the external mic preamps, which is a BAE 1073, so a Neve, basically one-to-one new Neve, like it's like having a brand new Neve that Rupert built, you know. And then I've got Chandler TG2s, which are a very similar thing. All the drum tracks are going through one of those mic preamps, and if they're not, I mix them back through after I track them into the interface. So if it's a mic that's going straight into the interface, it'll still get either the Chandler TG2 or the BAE 1073 in the mix process, because I do only have 3 external mic preamps. I've got a 1073 and 2 Chandler TG2, so 3 mic preamps. So I put them on kick, on snare, and on the overhead that's the United Twin 87. Then the rest of the mics, like the stereo room mics, go back through the Chandler TG2, and the crotch mic and the Royer go back through either the TG2 or the BAE 1073 because it sounds good. It always sounds better than just having the track that went into the interface, just running it back through. Sometimes I'll go a couple clicks up and maybe roll back the trim knob on them, just depending on what sounds good. If I want a little bit more thickness or crunch from it, you play that by ear, do what you think the track needs. Maybe sometimes instead of using a decapitator, you can just crank up the input on these mic preamps and roll back the trim. There's a lot of things you can do when you have some outboard gear. The ride overhead, which is this mic, this is the United Twin 87. It's got no EQ, just like the hi-hat overhead. Even though they're different mics, I'm not EQing them. You can use different mics on overheads. I like it. I put the Royer over the hi-hat side because I have an easier time backing off the ride side, which is this mic, the United Twin 87. I like to dig in on the hi-hat side, and I feel like the Royer, it captures that in a way where, ribbon mics are very forgiving, and they're a very natural sound, and I like what they do. They're a little bit darker, so when you've got that brightness of kind of bashing the hi-hat, it works well with that, where it might be a little bit harsh on this 87. So that's my thought process behind that, but in the stereo image, it sounds great having both of them together, because just like stereo guitars, that's why you want to play a different amp and a different guitar on the left from the right, right? Play different guitars, different amps on either side, because the stereo picture comes from things being different on either side. Or play the guitar on the left side and put the reverb in the right side. You want different things going on, so you don't necessarily need a matched pair of overheads. I like the way it sounds, actually. I want to add a few more condensers, at least one more large diaphragm condenser, and at least one more ribbon mic, and I want to get another pair of small diaphragm condensers. And for the ribbon and large diaphragm, I want them to be different mics, because I feel like having a variety in a small studio is more important than having matched pairs. As much as you can vary things and switch it up and have different options to grab, when the time comes, you've got different things to try out. Like having different large diaphragm condensers or just different mics to sing into. If you get people coming in your studio, certain mics work better for other singers. I really like this mic on my voice. Maybe I wouldn't like it on a female voice. So it's good to have variety. Variety for me in the studio is the name of the game. Just like I have an analog synthesizer over there, I also have MIDI keyboard. A lot of times I'll prefer going through the analog synthesizer just because when I play it in, it's there. I don't have really too much option to change things. I don't want to change things. And I did some latency when I'm playing MIDI because I'm having to monitor the MIDI, what I'm playing. There's a little bit of latency, so I always have to scoop the track a little bit. It just makes it easier for me to just play it in and be done with it with the analog synth. So let's listen to a little more of this track. I'm getting ready to record vocals on it. The way I work is I write in the studio. I write the music in the studio. Sometimes I'll have things worked out beforehand, have a song done on acoustic guitar and bring it in the studio. But a lot of times, most of the time, I'm just creating in the studio. So now we're at the process. There's a few more little music things I'm doing. Like I want to add a synth swell at the end of this one part where the drums are kind of, everything dies off and it's just the drums for a minute. I want this synthesizer part to kind of hang on a little bit and fade. I want the reverb to come up, and I want it to kind of like die out over top of the drums where the drums are solo just for like a bar or a half a bar. I want this big reverb from the synth. I'm going to add things like that. I'll probably add some hand claps or some shakers. I've already got kielbasa in the track. The more percussion, the better. I've got a tambourine over here. I might put some tambourine on it. But as far as music, we're basically done. This is a good rough mix. I've took it out to a car a couple times. I like it. So it's pretty much where it's at, where it's going to get vocals. So we're going in this week, writing the vocals. We're gonna start working on some ideas. Start, just getting some scratch stuff down. A lot of times that stuff sticks and stays, and that's what we end up with. But when I'm writing, a lot of times I have to sing it with the music to see how it works first. To see if the flow is like I'm hearing it in my head, because you can have one thing going on in your head, you can be singing it with headphones on at work along with the music, and you think it sounds one way, but then you listen back and it doesn't. So all that stuff's what we're working out. So this song could be done this week, it could be done next year. It's just you never know what you're getting into. I feel like I give my full attention to these songs, so I'm gonna see them through to the end. Now I have had projects where I've had to scrap them. They didn't work like I thought they were gonna work, and I'd rather just go on to something new. You can't be precious about your music. You can be very in it and serious about it, and do this tedious work seriously, and take it seriously, treat it like it's like everybody in the world's gonna hear it. That's what I try and do with it. But I'm also at the same time not precious about it. If it's not working, I'll re-record something or I'll move on. It's just, you can't get too attached to something, because you have a whole station to create at your fingertips. Use that. Don't get stuck on something. Move on or re-record it. I'd rather re-record something that isn't working than sit there and edit it or try and put plugins on it and make it work. Like, why would you want to force something that isn't working? You're not probably going to make it work if it's not working. So that's my thought about it. We're creative people. If you're watching me, you're a creative person, or you wouldn't be into this, wanting to learn how to make music yourself, or making music yourself and seeing how other people do their processing. So you're creative. Be creative. Don't doubt yourself. Don't think, oh, this is the last great sounding thing I'm going to get, but it's not working. I have to make it work. No, just do something else and make that work the first time. Or, if it's taking me a long time to do something that I think is there, but I can't get it. Now, if you're new, that's different. You have to learn. But now I'm at the point where I know how to make things work for me. And if they're not working, I move on. So let's listen a little more. Maybe we're at about an hour. I'll just roll out. I'll play this mix here. I'll play it all the way down instead of playing a new song. I'm getting ready to put lyrics on it, so that's coming. Let's listen from the top. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to roll out, play the rest of the song as I roll out. Subscribe, like, leave a comment. I'll be back with more mixing tips, more music, more guitar, more drums, more all that soon. I'm doing 2-3 of these streams a week now. I'm putting out my regular videos. I'm going to let this roll out. Peace, good night, have a good week.